In and welcome to Guy Aitchison's Reinventing the Tattoo Community, a place for tattooers, apprentices, collectors, and the curious to unite under all things art and tattoos. We encourage you to join in these live streams and real-world events where we offer a new option for connecting with each other to better your art, develop your skill set, and be with other like-minded artists. If you are new to our community, you can find us beaming out nearly every day. We've evolved into a quality network of amazing live and on-demand tattoo and art shows that have been expanding nearly every day. Thank you to everyone joining us on YouTube or Facebook, and a special thanks to those of you who are listening to our podcast. Our event schedule and notifications can be found in the official Reinventing community. To get there, search for and download Reinventing the Tattoo, found in both app stores, Apple and Google Play. You can also join directly at community.reinventingthetattoo.com. There you'll find all of our network shows, art jams, drawing groups, interviews, panels, webinars. All of this can also be enjoyed on demand and are stored in our library, as well as our YouTube and podcast channels. If you are watching, let us know that our streams are working by tagging a friend who loves tattoos or letting us know where you're beaming in from. In fact, we're beaming out 5 channels 24/7 at reinventing247.com. If you go there, you can enter to win a goodie bag with samples from Cheyenne cartridges, raw pigments, and DLize Pro. We also have several weekly shows and drawing groups that are happening. Every Sunday afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern, we have Jason Lesser with his Reinventing Drawing Group. There we'll have artists beaming in, working on a design or something that they would like critiqued, along with other artists. It's a great way to spend your afternoon. Also, every Sunday evening at 9 p.m. is the Tattoo Weekly with myself, Gabe Ripley of Tattoo Now, and Jake Meeks of the Fireside Tattoo Network. Every Monday evening at 9 p.m., we have our evening canon class with Guy Aitchison. Subscribers are encouraged to join there. Every month, we are focusing on a new topic. The month of August, we focus on anatomy. If you'd like to join, subscribe to our canon at courses.reinventingthetattoo.com. Every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m., we have Ricardo Sturdemont's Reinventing Drawing Group. And Wednesdays at noon is the Tattoo Now show with Gabe Ripley. Thursdays at noon, we have our Tattoo Collecting podcast. And also every Thursday morning, subscribers are encouraged to join Kier for apprentices and fundamental skills. There are other ways to support our show with our upcoming pro development and on-demand shows. We have things from Andre Malcolm, BJ Betts, Bob Tyrell, and others. All of this can be found at courses.reinventingthetattoo.com. As I mentioned, this community is free to you. Thank you to our sponsors, and we'd like to say thank you to them. We have World Tattoo Events found at worldtattooevents.com. They are the largest, most comprehensive resource for tattoo events worldwide. Lots of stuff is updating as conventions are rescheduling like crazy, so we encourage you to visit their website to confirm. Also, inkjet stencils at inkjetstencils.com. Print your stencils from your mobile or computer. Save your time, your hands, and apprentices' hands. They have webinars and free samples on their website. Also, thank you very much to Raw Pigments, an ink company that is tapping into the source with acrylic-free pigments that have been impressing artists across the globe. You can find them at rawpigments.co. Also, special thanks to DLize Pro, or known internationally as Dermalize Pro. Protect your art. If you are using saran wrap, watch some videos of tattooers to see what it's all about at dermalizepro.com. Of course, thank you, Gabe, at Tattoo Now, providing technology for tattooers for more than 25 years. And of course, the founder and inspiration behind Reinventing the Tattoo, Guy Aitchison. Find his Biomech Encyclopedia, DVDs, machines, paintings, and more at guyaitchison.com. Of course, thank you to our affiliates, Fireside Tattoo Network, the Apprenticeship Diaries, and ecofriendlytattoosupplies.com. I know it's fun to see us on screen, but there are several real-world events coming up. October 3rd to 6th is the Paradise BYOB, found online at paradisebyob.com. There will be webcasting shows live, have an archaeologist panel planned, and lots of amazing guest artists and stuff available. November 12th to 14th, we will be in Brussels at the Brussels Tattoo Convention. Nick Baxter, Ivana, and Gabe will be doing seminars, beaming in Art Jam, and subscriber-exclusive meetups. May 20th to 22nd of next year, guys, we will be in Hell City, Columbus, as well as July 8th to 10th, the Rock River Tattoo Art Expo, There will be a reinventing track, artists at an amazing venue that's easy to get to from anywhere in the world. We also have on July 29th to 31st of next year, the Rubber City Tattoo Invitational in Akron, Ohio with Tony Urbanic. And one that is very exciting for me to announce is October 20th to 23rd, the Paradise Tattoo Gathering. Now, we welcome positive reviews on the channels and would love for you to follow us. If you would like to host a reinventing event or to sponsor our community, contact us at management@reinventingthetattoo.com. Now, I will be in the background to read off comments. I'll have my browser open to share inspirations and references. So if you need anything, please drop me a comment and I'd be happy to share. Thank you to the growing crew of contributing artists that are truly helping reinventing reach more of the right people for the right reasons. Thank you for inspiring each other and everyone in our virtual reinventing offices. All right, Guy, how are you? I'm going to hand things over to you to get the evening started.
Fabulous. Thank you, Lauren. Thanks everyone who was tuned in, and really excited about tonight. We've got Adrian and Dominic and the Inglorious Hoko here. We'll actually ask him for the proper pronunciation of his name. I won't attempt it, but very excited about this because you know, 3D modeling is something that I first started doing. You know, not just for the sake of making 3D models in computers, but always for references, either for tattoos or paintings. I was doing this, you know, 20, 25 years ago using a program called Bryce, which became obsolete, and it was a great program, but it went the way of the 8-track, and ZBrush has really solidified itself as being one of the central apps that most serious 3D modelers use, not necessarily for everything, but for a very particular type of sculpting. It's really great, especially for organic sculpting, which you can imagine why I would be excited about that. But yeah, let's go ahead and introduce our two guests. Let's start with Hoko, who does not have a webcam, so we're just going to be seeing his default image while he's talking, but pretty soon he'll be screen sharing, and that'll be the exciting stuff. Hoko, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, Guy. It's an honor to be here.
How's lockdown treating you?
Look, all the days have blurred into one. I have no idea what week it is yet. I've played way too much video games, and yeah, I can't really complain considering like how much worse other people in the world can, you know, have it during this pandemic. It's pretty chill here. So, you know,
it's also helpful if you're a creative person. I think that the idea of being stuck inside or whatever, you at least have that kind of silver lining.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like, I certainly don't hate lockdown right now. Like, I've got some creative projects underway that I've been, you know, kind of chipping away at, despite the fact that video games keep calling out to me right now. But I think too, it was nice to take a break. Like, I just had so much going on with tattooing and all the projects that I have going on outside of tattooing as well, that it was becoming really quite stressful just from a day to day. So I'm kind of like quite thankful for this current lockdown. Yeah, it's been great, really.
So if you don't mind me asking, how did you first connect with 3D modeling, and how did that become a tool for you as a tattoo artist?
Well, I as a kid, I was obsessed with video games, and I would just muck around in video games like Unreal and Half-Life and try to learn how to make my own levels and stuff like that. So it's where I kind of like started mucking around with 3D modeling programs. In 2004, I believe, I was a teenager. I went to the local library, and they had a single concept art book in the entire library in a small town in New Zealand, and it was for Doom 3. And in this concept art book, they really delved deep into how they made the game and like their creative decisions. And one of those things was what programs they used. And that program happened to be ZBrush. So that was kind of like where ZBrush got on my radar. And so it was kind of like something I knew about from there. But I think I started actually learning ZBrush in 2015 when there was something I wanted to draw for a tattoo, and I just couldn't quite get the proportions right, the angles right. And I decided, hey, well, it's 11 p.m. I've got the tattoo tomorrow. I'll quickly learn ZBrush, you know, which it didn't work. But it opened a new world for me, and I've been like, digital sculpture programs have been part of my daily workflow ever since then. So it's really, yeah, it was really quite a fortunate thing that I decided to make that snap decision that night.
Sometimes that's how it starts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you've been tattooing how long now?
I started my tattoo apprenticeship in 2010, I believe. So I've been tattooing full time since April 2012. So we're coming up for my 10 years soon, which, yeah, quite excited about.
Well,
Yeah.
congratulations. Yeah, it's you've definitely accomplished a lot in 10 years. And, I remember a long time ago sitting around with other artists talking about that 10-year benchmark. And of course, it's not like from that point on you're set, you still keep climbing, but it's interesting to kind of see where you're at 10 years for sure. And the fact that you've already got a distinct voice for yourself, I think that a lot of artists struggle to find that. And so that's certainly an accomplishment. So yeah, Adrian, let's hear a little bit about your history. You started tattooing over 20 years ago now, right?
Yeah, so I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. I started take a formal apprenticeship under a guy named Don Giesman in 1999. I did my first tattoo the day after my birthday at the end of the year in 99. And yeah, I've been working on it ever since. I started interested in biomechanical tattooing at a real early age through introduction to movies. I was really into Japanese animation at the time. I remember Ghost in the Shell had a real big impact on me. Movies like The Matrix, of course, Alien. And yeah, so since then, I've been trying my best to pursue that. I have since moved to Australia about 5.5 years ago, 5 years ago now.
It's already been that long, crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy that it's been that long. It trips me out. And now I live on the Gold Coast of Australia with my wife, where we tattoo out here at a shop called 383 in Broad Beach. It's really nice. It's really nice.
And your first experience with zBrush, I remember you were messing around with that ages ago.
Yeah, so I first got a hold of zBrush in, I think 2011 is when I finally was able to get myself my budget right and things like that. And I think it was like version 3.1 or something really, really early. I remember I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and it had first came on my radar because I was a member of conceptart.org, and I think that was ran by a group called Massive Black. And they would
I remember them. They had a bunch of things out at the time.
Yeah, they used to do a bunch of what they used to call art symposiums, where they had all kinds of digital artists together in a room, similar to like a tattoo convention, where they all had booths and they just jammed together. It was really cool. I went to one in Dallas, and once I went to the one in Dallas and I got to see zBrush in real time and like watch somebody render something in front of me from nothing, at that point I was just, how am I going to find the money to do this? I have to do this,
Right. You start to understand what a powerful tool it can be. Yeah,
right.
Especially so, my experience with Bryce and things like that, where the process of building up something complex and organic was much more painstaking, far less intuitive, and yeah, you find a way, right? But
right.
That's the great thing about the creative software that's being available these days, is they're really figuring out how to make it the most intuitive, how you can right. Really we're working on getting to a point where we can just think this stuff into existence.
Well, yeah, we're definitely developing that technology to a certain degree, and it's going to be interesting to see where creative technology goes in the next 5 to 10 years. I think it's going to be completely like, I don't know how to describe it. It's going to be inidentifiable in some respects from magic, I think,
Right. Yeah. And for those of us who still like to work in analog media, it's sort of a weird thing, because I follow a number of like sci-fi and fantasy illustrators, and the speed at which they can come up with this incredible imagery. And, of course, they've got all this flexibility. They're like, no, let me try a different finish. Let me render it slightly differently. No, I'm going to rotate it a little bit and change the lighting until they've got it just right. You just don't have any of those options if you're doing it with paint. You can make a few changes. You can glaze a little bit, but you don't have those options really. But there's a part of me that still holds out, So now I think of apps like ZBrush as being a step towards that tattoo and or that painting. And of course, I think a lot of the audience that's going to be joining us tonight, if they're to mess around with ZBrush, it's going to be part of their idea. And of course, like what Hoko has been doing. He's
definitely, tried my best to apply ZBrush to other projects in the past. Like I did a series of paintings that were all religious imagery called Apocalypsis, and it's 13
I remember
paintings.
those, yeah.
Yeah, so there's one painting in particular where it's Babylon sitting on the back of the seven-headed beast, and there's like this seven-headed dragon-looking thing, and I sculpted that whole thing in ZBrush, and I just basically used the ZBrush lighting, like rendering, in order to be able to get a reference that I can kind of base like the lighting in the painting on, and the painting ended up being a completely different image, but I was able to use ZBrush from that perspective. And that's all that I ever really used it for. Like it really is just like surface level of what it's capable to do. And, but I like you were saying, as an analog artist, I primarily do analog art using pencils, using paint and things like that. It's just, I use a lot of spray paint. So that's super, analog. But
well, it's a great tool for pushing the analog stuff further, I think, because if you imagine a thing and then you want it to have that level of realism before you actually start painting it, this gives you that chance, and you can also, again, play around with the lighting and that kind of thing. So
it frees you from the math.
So yeah, tonight I'm excited. We're going to make 3 little collaborations, and we're going to start them from scratch. And I guess I'm going to make something that looks like a guy tattoo, like a mind tree sort of thing. I'm going to start it anyway. We're passing these, so I'm psyched to see where they go.
Since I talked earlier, Hoko and I kind of got he helped me refamiliarize myself with the program, and I updated it. So now I'm on the newest version. I started messing with an object. I basically just took a lump of clay and I started pulling it apart and making this quadruped creature. I thought because of the fact that it's going to have arms, legs, head, and a full figure, that maybe I'd get a little bit of a preemptive jump on it. So it's still relatively basic and there's not any real detail to it. But
I'd love to see how you're pulling those arms and legs. I mean, this is like, I just updated too, and my version was very old. So let's go ahead.
Gabe, how are we going to do this? Are we going to take turns screen sharing? Do we screen share and they'll be all on the audience's?
I guess the question is can we all set it on screen share, and then whoever's talking their screen is visible? Gabe, does it work that way? Oh, that's right. He left. That would be Lauren. Lauren, does it work that way?
Sure. We can try it, probably one screen share at a time, but we can hop back and forth with any verbal cues.
I am not able to screen share because the connection that my computer is on is terrible. So I'm having to use my cellular connection. So I'm just pointing my phone at my screen.
Okay. So then you and one other person will be able to share the screen, unless anyone's video is the screen share itself.
So mine, when I click on share screen, it says this will stop the other's screen sharing. Do you want to continue?
Yep. Now we can see your screen. Perfect.
Okay. So if you want to go ahead and show us your first steps. Okay. You know what? I would love to see you start with a sphere and just taffy pull it into something like that. I'm very curious.
So then I think what I will do. Sorry. My tool.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited that I was forced to update, because I mean, literally I was using a 10 or 12-year-old version.
Man, the advancements in the program since then is just insane.
Yeah.
They're updating it every month now. It's and adding new features to it every time. It's hard to keep up with.
I think part of it is because it has become competitive. There's a number of 3D sculpting apps like this available now, including some cheap, like, you know, iPad kind of level ones. And so they really need to make sure that they've got tools that nobody else has.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got programs like Blender now, which Blender's powerful enough now. It's a free program and it's open source, so anyone can kind of work on it. But that program is powerful enough now that it's kind of becoming industry standard almost for, like, you know, the movie and game industry, and it's completely free. So yeah, it is definitely getting very, very competitive.
Yeah, and so now I noticed that ZBrush is kind of set up like, you know, I've been an Adobe subscriber for a long time because I use a few of their apps. So yeah, I just ended up with a monthly subscription to ZBrush for I think it was like $35 a month. But you know, I've got a lot of projects I plan on doing with it, so it's going to be worth the investment. And I kind of like that better than the old version where it's like, okay, here's $1,000, and you know, hopefully it's going to stay up to date.
Well, that's the fortunate thing about ZBrush, though, is that it gives you a lifetime worth of updates.
Yeah.
When you pay for it. So I'm so thankful for that, because I mean, I bought ZBrush in 2015, you know, and if they were updating every year or every month, then man, it would get very expensive very quickly.
Yeah.
For example, like Keyshot, which is the rendering program I use in conjunction with ZBrush.
Yeah, I see a lot of people are using that.
Yeah, but I mean, I've had to buy it twice because they after a certain point they're just like, right, buy the program again if you want it to keep updating. You're like, God damn it.
Well, you know, honestly, that's what happened with ZBrush. You know, my version was so old, there was no path to update from there. You know, I just had to throw it away and start again.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm okay with that.
Give me a second, guys. Sorry, this is the brand new version, and I'm still just getting used to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this tool and then restart this.
Okay. And then Hoko, what are you going to be doing today?
I think I'm going to do some sort of gnarly kind of alien-esque bust. Just something kind of strange and surreal. Just some sort of face, I think. I'll just sculpt organically and see where we end up.
Nice. And then, yeah, once we get rolling on this, I guess we'll do maybe 15 or 20-minute rotations.
Okay.
And are we just going to keep these to single objects, keep it simple to pass around?
I mean, we can have multiple subtools on the project, but when we save it as a ZTool file, it'll keep all of the tools in there, so that'll be fine when we send it. Okay. So that won't be an issue. Quite often I'll have like maybe 2 or 3 different subtools as part of my sculpture.
Is that often just to get different materials mixed together, or?
No, just, I mean, like, say for example, if I'm making a face, I will create a different subtool for, say, the eyeballs, or I'll create another one for the teeth, just things like that. So quite often I'll end up with like 50 subtools in a more complex sculpture. But for something like a bust, if it's got eyes, I'll have like maybe 2 different subtools inside it.
So what would be the advantage of having the eye being its own subtool rather than just carefully sculpting it into the main one?
Well, the advantage there would be just that we can just drop in a sphere, put it in the eye socket, sculpt the eyelids around the sphere, and it's not going to distort the mesh of the sphere. So if we were doing that, like say traditionally in clay, we'd just have to carefully sculpt the eyelids and the actual eyeball itself. But with this, we don't have to worry about messing up the surface of the actual eyeball. So, and then also later on, we can take that into, say, a rendering program, or we can keep it in Keyshot, and we can apply different materials, say, just to the eyeball itself, and then say like a glass material, and then a skin shader material for the skin of the face. So it's good to keep certain parts of your model separate.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so far my use of ZBrush has been very limited, where I've not been combining subtools yet. So I may be, asking you a few questions about that.
And that's about the level that I stopped really studying, is once I got to learning the basics of subtools. And that's probably where I'm going to start my re-education process on this.
Yeah, because that feels like a big limitation. And
for sure.
Yeah, of course, I was just making these simple objects, right? And it was adequate for what I was doing at the time. And now it's just finally reached that point where I've kind of reached that wall, and there's no further avoiding it. But it's kind of like Photoshop. You don't need to know all of Photoshop to use it, right? You can get by just knowing a small percentage of its tools, and you've already got a lot of powerful things you can do. But then you learn these certain key things, and all of a sudden it just opens up whole worlds.
Yeah, man, it's the 80-20 rule, man. You use 20% of the tools 80% of the time. So
yeah.
Yeah, most of the sliders and menus in this program I've never even opened.
Yeah, that's kind of funny that way.
Yeah. So should we all start sculpting now?
Yep. Now I am dropping in a sphere and starting from scratch.
Oh, cool. I'm not sure if my screen is visible. I'm not.
I can see.
Can you? I have no idea what's happening here. I've never used Zoom before. Sorry, guys. I apologize in advance.
Do you have the... I think I'm seeing Guy. Guy, you have a sphere?
Yep, I'm starting with a sphere.
Yeah.
We may have to switch back and forth with a screen share. Hoko, do you have the ability to share your screen?
Okay. Is it visible now?
It is not visible now, but we could be switching back and forth between Adrian's screen share and yours.
Okay. Let's have a look here. Lauren, is it visible now?
Yes.
Awesome. Cool.
So yeah, every so often we can switch back between you and Adrian.
So I basically just started with the sphere, and then what was I used the move tool is the one that I think that I use. Yeah.
And what is the move tool that you're talking about?
I'm activating the symmetry so that I have
yeah.
two sides, and then I like to expand the sides, and what I'll do is just kind of drag these little bits out. Almost
okay,
like,
I'd love to see. Can we see Adrian's screen for a second? I want to see how he drags these little bits out. That's where
am I not screen sharing right now?
I think Lauren has got Hoko on there, right?
Yep, we can just suggest to take or put your screen share on.
Yep,
yep. Okay. So yeah, I just have this. Let me go back.
We still have Hoko on the screen.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go.
Here we go.
So yeah, let me go back a couple. Am I screen sharing? You can see my
some kind of Zoom crap. Yeah, Lauren, any suggestions?
You guys are seeing ZBrush?
We are seeing a Zoom homepage.
Oh, okay. I apologize. That's my bad.
I might have just selected the wrong window.
Yeah, I think I selected the wrong window. Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, desktop 1.
Boom. Okay. All right.
All right. So this is the move tool. Basically, the move tool just literally like moves the clay around.
Okay. So which is the move tool? It's I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Guy, actually, you choose what you see, and Lauren chooses what goes out on the screen.
Okay, that didn't make things any clearer, but
So the move
Anyway.
tool is it's one of the standard brushes in ZBrush. It's like this. It's like the standard tool that you're using to draw those shapes on there now.
mm-hmm.
It's in that top left icon. You can pick a different brush. It's one of the brushes.
Ah, okay, gotcha. All right. Here
And
you go.
so now I have the move tool active, and I also
Would it
have
be
the-
move elastic? Is that the one?
I'm just using the move,
Oh, just straight move. Okay, yep. I see
Yep.
the few different moves. Okay.
and I have the activate the symmetry on, so that I have.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
This is basically how I started that one that you were seeing me work with earlier.
Yeah, this is something I've been trying to figure out how to do. So that's very useful.
Give you a better one. So yeah, I'm just using the move tool to kind of like literally mash the clay around a little bit, like if I was just kind of kneading it with my palms, I guess. If you're thinking about it in like real tangible terms. And then let me shape this out just a little bit more before I pull out that tail, because the tail was something that I was finding issue with, and I'll address that same issue on the feet. Like they're going to start getting a bit broken up with the topology. Now you can see that it's really stretching out these pixels.
Yeah.
And Hoko introduced me to using, I'll do it now actually. Geometry has a tool called Dynamesh, and he was saying that if we boost this resolution in intervals of 8, like 128 to 256, say, and you click Dynamesh, it I think what does it do?
It retopologizes the
Retopologizes.
mesh.
Thank
So
you.
it's basically redrawing the wireframe as you go in. So that,
Right now, isn't that Control D, right?
That's subdivide.
No, that's subdivide. That is. So that's
Okay.
a different thing. So that's controlling
That
the
adds resolution. Hey. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so what happens when we go to Dynamesh?
Dynamesh will redraw the mesh for you while you're working. So if your mesh becomes quite distorted because you've been, say, bending it out or anything like that, Dynamesh is going to fix that up for you.
Okay, where do I find that?
So that is under geometry, the geometry tab and the tool palette on the right of your screen there, and then under Dynamesh.
For instance, I'll show you an example of what he was kind of talking about. So instead of using the move tool for the tail, what I'm going to do is I'm using what's called a snake hook tool.
All right, so I've opened up Dynamesh, and it's got a few different things I can select: resolution, blur, sub projection. Any suggestions there?
So leave all of those and just control the resolution. So if you want to start off with, hold on, let me. Can I see your screen there? So yeah, just go to maybe put it to 128 or 256, and then press the big Dynamesh button, and that should redraw it for you. I generally start with a lower resolution for everything that I do. You want to have low resolution to make the big changes and kind of a high resolution to make the small changes, such as
Right.
detailing, etc.
Okay, so do you see how I'm getting these kind of blinking triangles here? It's like I've got pixels that I stretched out too much. Shouldn't Dynamesh have fixed that? Or maybe am I using the wrong material to be able to do that?
I can't actually, I don't know if I can.
Okay, it's right in this area.
Are you seeing me, Hoko?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how
okay.
to
Yeah.
switch to
Yep, if at any point you do start your own screen share, it'll override the other, so.
Okay, I
can go
cannot
back
do a
and forth.
screen share on mine.
No, but we can see yours a little bit small pinned to the upper right-hand corner
Okay.
of the screen.
Yeah, now, I don't know if you can see right in this little area here, as I rotate it, and I'm sure you've seen this happen before, you get some polygons that seem to like wink on and off. Like I stretched it past its.
Oh, okay. So what you need to do there is just Dynamesh hasn't taken effect yet. So if you go to Dynamesh now, I can't actually see that part of your screen, so I can't see if it's on or not. But yeah, go. Okay,
Okay,
so
so over here I've got Dynamesh. I've selected 256.
Yep,
I've
and
clicked
then
it.
yep, click that button there.
Yeah, I've done that already, and it didn't. Okay, here we
yeah, and now press no.
go.
There we go.
All right,
And that should fix that problem.
Look at that. Okay, beautiful. Okay, this is lovely because already I feel like I've got quite a bit fewer limitations than I had an hour ago.
That's how I felt after talking to this guy.
The crash course in ZBrush real quick.
All right. I'm probably going to have the least sophisticated object out of all of ours, but I mean that's part of the fun of this. That's when we collaborate, a lot of it is about doing the unexpected things with the other people's stuff. I always enjoy that.
Well, I'm really looking forward to what you coming up with anyway, Guy, because I've always had an idea to recreate your painting. I think it was called Mind Tree. It's that big painting of the kind of glowing object, and I think it's in your Organica book, and I've always wanted to recreate that and see how close I can get it to the painting. I thought it would be a really good study in ZBrush. So today might be the day that happens.
And then if some people in the chat are saying, "Hey, what's up? Thank you for doing this." Hoko sultry bass tones are doing things to me from Alec to Pandy. Yeah, but maybe if we can switch maybe every couple of minutes between each one, Hoko. Some people are asking to see your screen. Also, I do have a question in the chat for you. What would you say the learning curve is like for an absolute beginner to ZBrush? I'm familiar with programs like Photoshop and Clay Sculpt and Analog.
Okay, well, there is quite a steep learning curve, and especially if you're not an especially computer-minded person, it can be quite daunting. I don't know what screen we're on right now, but if you look at the heads-up display of this program, it can seem quite confusing at first. However, if learning the basics is very simple. It's just kind of persevering and getting over that like initial shock of learning such a kind of daunting program. A lot of people find this program to be quite convoluted. So there is quite a large learning curve. But if you persevere, especially through that initial stage, I think you'll find it really quite rewarding. Awesome. And we can't see your screen now, but if you will open up another screen share, we will be able to. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that. Oh, okay, here we go. Awesome. Perfect. All right. All right. So I didn't realize. I thought that I was screen sharing the entire time. We'll probably switch through every few minutes to make it so we can. Awesome.
While you're working, thank you to Ease Artworks for tuning in, Pete Wild, LH Pandy, all of you guys, thank you for tuning in and watching.
I'm so curious to see what everybody else is making. I can't wait.
Well, I'm going to show my screen for just a moment. Continue. All right. Because this is what I was doing with that sphere that I was showing you guys earlier. And I just
cool
used the move tool to like push and pull it around to kind of get these basic gestures, you know what I mean? And then Dynamesh to smooth it out a little bit. And yeah, that's basically what I would be doing to be able to get to where we were at on the other one. So now I'm going to open up that other tool. That was the tool that I was just working on when we first started up. Okay. So that's basically how I got started and how I got to this point. So now I'm actually going to use some of the, I like to use the clay tool to start really giving it some detail and some actual body. So we'll go back to Hoko's screen.
Start another screen share over there, and then we'll be able to see your screen again.
Okay, cool as.
I'm back. So I've got this weird problem with overheating phones, and I just bought a new one and it didn't solve the problem. Okay. All right, where were we? It was just getting real interesting too. All right, so before I disappeared, where were we? We almost ready to start passing things around yet? Want to give it 5 more minutes?
Yeah, let's do 5 more minutes.
Yeah, it's 5 more minutes is fine. I was explaining that what I was doing with the pushing and pulling using the move tool was based on the example that I was showing, was exactly how I got to the stage that I had the tool when we first opened up our live today. So I reloaded that tool to start sculpting on top of that, and I'm just starting to sculpt using the clay tool.
Okay, and the clay tool, what does that do? Guess I should try it out.
It's similar to the standard brush, but it has, I guess, a flattened top surface with a rounded edge, as opposed to like a round bulbous kind of.
Have you tried using the clay buildup tool there, Adrian?
I have, and like I was saying earlier, arguably I have a pretty low grade computer. I'm just in the process of upgrading. So for some reason, the clay buildup tool seems to make my machine work a little harder.
Really? Oh man,
Yeah,
that's the workhorse brush there, man. That's the
Let's give it a crack here.
It's great for building up like
Oh,
muscle
wait a minute.
tone.
You know what? Scratch that. I'm wrong. There was something. It was the other one that was causing that lag, and it's been a while since I've really dug into this. So disregard my last statement.
Oh, all good, man. All good.
Yeah, I've been messing around with Move Elastic, and it's really interesting. The action on that one is pretty different.
I've actually never used that brush. It's insane, like how many brushes there are in this program, and I've been using this program nearly every day for a long time, and so many of them I just haven't even touched.
Yeah, well, like Move Elastic it's just got different action from the other Move tool. It's springy, and
nice.
all of a sudden stuff is moving like faster than you expect. It's like, whoa, slow down, crazy. But it's good, it's got more action to it, and it's nice when it's like using a paintbrush that's got extra long bristles and might have slightly more bounce than you would expect, and sometimes you can work with that in a way that's just right.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to give it a go.
Often when I'm working with these, like the clay tool and now the clay buildup tool, I'll hold down Shift and go over it, and that allows you to kind of smooth it out and soften it a bit.
Clay buildup. Okay. Let's find that.
So the shortcut for clay buildup is if you just press on your keyboard BCB, and it'll give it to you straight away.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. It's just got a different shape to it. And you said hold down Shift and it'll sort of, yeah, that's right. It builds it up much more smoothly. No.
It's almost like if it's like if you've ever sculpted with clay. Well, I know you've sculpted with clay. How you would use like some sort of a liquid to soften up the edges of your tool marks.
Yeah. Well, what do you guys think? Do we
Yeah, I'm
pass
okay
these
with a
sometime
switcheroo.
soon? I think it's time to pass these.
All right.
Got a
Got a
really
pretty
weird
solid
looking
foundation going on here.
Yeah, okay. So let's see if I can remember. Document, save as. save the
Don't go document. Go to your tool
Okay.
palette and go save as in there. Otherwise, it's going to save the whole document. Whereas we just want to save the tool. So there's
Okay.
3 different ways to save in this program, which is
All right. So where am I
convoluted.
going then?
So on your upper right of your screen, just underneath the tool palette there,
Yeah.
the first
yes.
button, it should be saved up there.
Yeah. Okay. Call this the guy thing. Ooh, all right.
Okay, so who are we passing on to?
Okay. Well, since you were talking about wanting to mess around with one of these mind tree things, maybe I'll let you take this one next.
Cool.
And
As,
pass that on to Adrian, and that's looking so wicked. So is that intentionally like set in like a monolith sort of thing?
yeah. So I just
Right.
kind of I just added in another subtool, just a cube, and then I messed with the scale so that it will it was long and thin, and eventually I'll cut that back off and have it nice and flat. But yeah, I just wanted like some sort of weird monolith, some sort of set into it, almost like it's grown out of it. I'll email that on to Adrian now.
I'm emailing this one, the guy.
All right. So it's still a small enough file. It's just going to go straight to email. It'll be interesting to see when it passes that 25 meg threshold.
Oh yeah, mine's 50 megs. So
Oh yeah. Mine is still only about 10. So
Oh, nice. Yeah, if we had have saved them as a Z project, that'd be like 500 megabytes each. So
right. Well, you know, I mean, that just tells you how much faster you're working because you've used this program so much. And
yeah.
and also
mine's
I'm
only
poking around
9.
the tool palette.
Okay.
All right. That should be sent, Guy.
All right, and while we're sending files around, I'd like to invite anyone in the chat room who's got any questions. Got a couple minutes to, Lauren can read them off. And of course, we can do more of these towards the end of our session. Okay, send. All right. Yeah, and what happened is 3 hours ago, Adrian and I were doing some tests, and he sent me something, and I couldn't open it. Told me my my shit was too out of date. So
we do have Marcus Brown in the chat room. Thanks for joining, Marcus. He says, Hoko, if you could do a collab with anyone in New Zealand, who would it be?
Oh man. Well, actually, myself and Ben Kay have got a collaboration coming up soon. So he's one of the owners of Ship Shape Tattoo where I work, and he's an amazing artist, an absolutely incredible color realism artist, and yeah, very creative with photography and whatnot. So we're going to blend elements of our design process together and make a collaboration there. So very much looking forward to that. So I think he's number one on my list right there.
all right, here's Adrian's object. Open, no problem. Okay, exciting.
Hey, there we go. First pass.
Yeah, what fun. Yeah, Adrian's already got some nice detail going on here. And I guess I'm gonna use this move tool, mess with the anatomy.
And Guy, we can't see what you're working on.
Okay.
Right now, we do see what you are working on, Hoko.
Hey, okay. So this is Guy's little bio guy here. Man, this is cool as hell. All right, I don't think I've ever really made anything super as bioorganic as this in ZBrush, so this is going to be interesting. Let's see, where do we go from here?
Well, it's funny because ZBrush just seems like it's naturally sort of, I don't want to say inclined towards bio, but it's just anybody that is a bio inclined artist would look at ZBrush and say, yep, I can see how I would put that right to work.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all just organic sculpting, so it's perfect for it, really. But I don't know, for some reason, I just quite often end up gravitating towards faces. You know, there's something really quite beautiful about the abstract nature of like bio art, where it's everything and nothing at the same time. You know, it can be a little bit hard for me to wrap my head around it sometimes, I guess.
Hey, Hoko, I'm having an issue with Google Drive. I think my operating system is acting a fool. Is there another way you can send it to me? Maybe WeTransfer or something like that?
Ah, okay. Let me have a look there. Do you want to put the screen to Guy Atchison there, Lauren?
Sure, Guy, can we see your screen?
Yeah.
And then another option, Adrian, would be even a Dropbox link.
Now, why is my screen not showing?
There we go. So I'm going to stop your share, Hoko, and we will jump over to Guy.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I've got this Adrian thing here, and I've just been sort of vertebraizing the tail using that move elastic, which is just a fun tool. And so, yeah, now I think I'm just going to zoom in and get nice and close. And keyboard shortcuts are a little bit different. All right. What's our keyboard shortcut for just zooming in? It's not plus anymore, is it?
I'm not sure, but I do see, like, I usually go to on the right the right side toolbar, the little ones that are the first ones to the right.
Yeah.
There is a zoom one, the third one down, and then you just push that button and then hold it.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Otherwise, I'll also use the Alt key. I'll hit Alt, and then I will push on the background and let go of Alt, and then holding it the stylus down, scrolling up and down.
Okay, Adrian, I've just sent you the link, so you should be able to get it now.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Just make sure that should be all good.
And of course, something like this, let's say you've got a tail like this and you've got these vertebrae, and this is where you get lost in something like ZBrush, because you can really get in there close, right? And sculpt things to a kind of insane degree.
Yeah, it's basically infinite. You know, you could just keep zooming in, keep adding detail. Yeah, it's great.
So is there a keyboard shortcut for changing the draw size?
Yes, so if you hold down S, or if you just press S, it'll come up directly underneath your cursor.
Ah, nice. Yep. Like that. Yeah, that's even better than the Photoshop brush shortcuts, which, you just use the parenthesis keys for that. And then how about the Z intensity? Is there a shortcut for that one too?
I think if you press spacebar, yeah, if you hold down spacebar, I think you
Yeah,
can.
there you go. Yep.
But I mean, the pressure sensitivity of just using the stylus is generally enough. I very rarely actually change the pressure the Z intensity, unless I'm kind of getting into the finer points of detailing stage.
Yeah, I'm just finding that when I change brushes, that often whatever the ideal intensity was on the previous brush isn't necessarily going to be the ideal on this one.
Yeah.
Now, I'm noticing that like the edges of this shape seem very pixelated that Adrian sent me. I've already done the Dynamesh and the subdivide, and it still looks that way.
Maybe the mesh, right? I think the mesh has gotten a little bit too thin. So what you can do is inflate the mesh using the Inflate tool, which the shortcut for that is BIN. And if you inflate it, it's going to kind of blow up like a balloon, and then you can run Dynamesh again, and it should fix that and rebuild it if it's been stretched too thin originally.
BIN?
Yep. And then you can just run that over.
Interesting. Okay.
All right, I got Hoko's file.
Hey, nice.
Took a minute to get through, but that also gave me a second to get caught up.
All right. I beg your pardon. I have to use the restroom real fast. I'll be right back.
Okay. You do that.
Should we do a quick switch from the screen view?
Let's see. Whose are we looking at right now? Yeah, let's see what's going on.
Sure. Right now we're looking at yours.
Yep. Let's see how. No, this is the model that I started that Hoko is working on now. Let's check his out.
Awesome.
Alrighty, I'll bring that up. Yeah, starting to get some
kind of veiny detail in there. Yeah, really cool. So yeah, I'd be curious to now. You said that you usually prefer to get like the large scale changes made earlier on, right?
Yeah. It's, I mean, look, it's very tempting to kind of get caught up and start doing details straight away, you know. But it's kind of better to work a piece. It's similar to just like traditional art, like say an oil painting, go through and do an underpainting first, and then go through and add the next layer and add the next layer and kind of build it up. And it's very, very true for digital sculpture, where you want to be making those big changes early on and at a low resolution, and then later on increasing the resolution and adding those small details. Yeah, at the moment I'm just going through and kind of putting in that kind of like, I don't know, background detail on the underside of these. What do you call these kind of like these formations, Guy? It's kind of your creation.
Call them heads.
Yeah,
for lack of anything better.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, I'm just going through and putting the detail on the underside of the kind of bonehead. So I guess kind of actually it's reminds me of the original Reinventing the Tattoo book, where you had a drawing of, I think it was like basically like a donut shape, and you had like an incredibly detailed section and then a very smooth section of it to demonstrate how you can make things seem further away by adding detail and smoother in the foreground to bring them to draw your eye to different parts of it. Kind of, yeah. Remember all those little things from that book.
One of the things with bio in particular is it can be kind of intoxicating to just get lost in the detail, you know, and you know, it's a place where I'm always finding myself having to dial back a little bit, say, oh, take it easy, you know, that's enough with that. Leave this area smooth. Try to, you know, balance out the intense detailing with areas where there's not so much.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very important to kind of keep that stop the piece from getting too confusing, I guess. I sculpted just like a kind of warm-up piece where we were testing out using Zoom with Adrian earlier on, and the piece that I sculpted was confusing to say the least in certain parts. I just went nuts with detail. Okay, don't do that.
I'm back, and I agree. It is very easy to get kind of caught up in that detail early because it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with this bio piece, man. A lot of fun.
Yeah, and I'm having a blast with Adrian's model too. It's just, I mean, Adrian has left me with sketchbooks of his before, where it's just like, okay, do your thing, you know. And so, like a lot of the stuff in the Biomech Encyclopedia that he and I worked on started out with some pretty well realized graphite sketches that he'd kind of just let me run with, you know, and you know, because he's got such great flow to begin with and a nice sense of depth, shapes that just naturally play off each other really nicely. It was always just a blast to see where it could go. Yeah, I'm having just as much fun with this. Yeah,
I still have all of those sketchbooks. I was looking at them just the other day, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I generally don't ever get rid of sketchbooks unless I, you know, throw them under the lawnmower. You ever hear that story?
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. Well, this is the first time I ever met Marcus Lenhard, a long time ago. And he was, coming to get a sleeve done. And so I met him at the airport. We have this, it's a small town airport. And there's a little Mexican restaurant. And we just had a couple beers and brought my sketchbook along, went over ideas because we were going to start his sleeve the next day. And so I help him load his stuff into the back of the car. And while I'm doing this, I set the sketchbook on the roof of the car and forgot about it. Drove off.
Oh no.
Couldn't find it when I got home and called the restaurant and they were closed and kind of, I don't know, what could I do? It was late, right? So I just waited till the next day and the restaurant still had no idea. So I went over there and there's this median strip, between the two lanes of the road right by that restaurant. I could see the lawnmower guy just, he passed through there about 30 seconds before. I'm like, I just know, according to Murphy's Law, where my sketchbook's got to be. And sure enough, there it is. So now I've got this plastic bag filled with these little grass stained shreds of, this is back when I was putting like a half a day for a sketch, like really intensively drawn stuff. So, oh well.
Oh,
one of these days.
Oh, that hurts. That hurts me.
Yeah. I think one of these days, though, I'm going to take some of those and kind of stick them back together, complete with grass stains and everything.
Yeah,
and,
that'd be awesome.
Maybe give some of them away just for fun.
Oh, I would be so devastated if that happened to me. Like I get very, very attached to my sketchbooks. They always become
hours, right?
Yeah, they feel like an extension of yourself. I've got one that I took with me while I was traveling all around Europe and whatnot, and it's just so beaten up. Like all the pages are falling out, and it's just rough as hell. But I love that book so much. Definitely do not want it to be run over with a lawnmower.
Awesome. Adrian, would you like to share your screen now too?
I was just about to do that.
Cool.
So I add another
Hell yeah.
sets of eyes.
Oh yeah. Let's turn it into something. So, Hoko, I do have another question, and I think we would have to bring me back up on the screen for a second in order to properly voice it.
Right.
So, can you see how pixelated this thing looks? Right?
That's because you've zoomed right in on your document. So if you zoom back out to where you go, so don't go all the way. Yep, go to there. So the correct way to zoom in would be to hold the Alt key.
Okay, the Alt key would be on a Mac. What option?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so. And then use your stylus. Yeah,
It might
and
be
then use your,
Command Alt is the same thing.
Okay.
and then hold down. Use your stylus to touch the screen that isn't on your model, and it will it'll move your model around.
Okay, so
And-
that's option. Yeah.
So and then while you're moving it around, like leave your stylus on the screen and then release the key, and you'll be able to zoom in and out.
All right. Yep.
Yeah.
Much better. That's
Yeah,
what I
so-
needed.
Yeah.
So that
So-
zoom button is not what I actually needed.
Yeah, so that's how you kind of zoom in and out on your model. Otherwise, you'll zoom in the whole document; it'll get pixelated.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is giving me real stress, but now it's starting to now I can actually see.
Nice. Yeah, it's those kind of little things that it feels strange at first in ZBrush, but once you get used to it, it's very intuitive.
So, we want to give this another 5, you think? Or how you guys doing?
Yeah. I'm just having some fun over here, jamming it up.
Yeah, I reckon. How are you feeling, Adrian? Because you kind of had the least amount of time sculpting, haven't you?
Yeah, but I've pushed around on it. I have no problem giving it a go. Yeah, five more minutes sounds fine. Is there any questions? I can't see any questions because looking at the work screen.
No questions. If anyone has any new questions in the YouTube, let us know. Basically just saying thank you for putting this together. Would you like to talk through a little bit of what you're doing for those that are totally new to ZBrush and watching?
Using that clay buildup tool that Hoko was describing earlier to just, it looks like I'm doing detail, but I really am just kind of building up mass where I would, kind of finding interesting shapes. I'm working on a Wacom Cintiq, so I think even if it's not a Cintiq, I'm pretty sure that all these brushes are pressure sensitive, right, Hoko?
Yeah, all of them. So long as your tablet is pressure sensitive, then they all work perfectly with it.
So yeah, I'm just kind of building it up before we get to the point where we're going to do any real detail, and guess that'll start happening in the next pass off. This thing has, like, I was Hoko and I were nerding out earlier, and I think that the one that you were working on earlier definitely had Masters of the Universe movie vibes, like that Skeletor. But this one has heavy Skeletor vibes, and I'm kind of here for it.
It cracks me up.
Did you didn't? That was a little bit before your time, hey?
Yeah, I remember, so that's He-Man, right?
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that. I love
so
that
it was kind of like,
up.
I was born in 91, so it was kind of like, it was there, but also I didn't have a television at that age, so we didn't. Mum decided to raise us without, television in the middle of nowhere, So I kind of knew about all these things, but I didn't actually get to watch them.
Yeah, He-Man, like, it's funny because like years later I kind of revisited it. I think it might have been Netflix or something, like back when I had to get a DVD from Netflix, and I remember getting an old copy of some of the He-Man stuff, and lo and behold, in this part of I think it's called Eternia, the world that He-Man lives in, as you get closer to Skeletor's castle, Snake Mountain, all the mountains and stuff were made out of like really low grade biomech. It was the craziest thing. Like, I was like, man, maybe this is subconsciously where I was getting it from. Because when I was like, I remember being like 4 or 5 years old and just being absolutely obsessed with it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because He-Man, being decades old, suddenly he's become sort of like meme making material, right?
Yeah.
And like, I've been running into these great memes of Skeletor just coming out to tell you, I've got some disturbing facts for you. Did you know that the skin of your lips is the exact same skin that your body uses in your anus? Right. Good
Tune
night.
in tomorrow for more horrible disturbing facts by Skeletor. What's worse is that when I first started seeing those memes, I was reading it and hearing it in this voice that I haven't heard since I was a kid. It's really strange. Because it's real high pitched, super annoying. It's funny as hell.
It's Kind of a very strange concept for a show. Just what are we going to
I
call
think at
this
the
hero?
time, like,
He-Man.
I feel like Conan was a really big thing around the same time. And I think
Yeah.
that was.
That's probably what sort of, made it okay to create this character that was just such a weird, like, juvenile male fantasy kind of character.
Yeah. I also saw this documentary where it was talking about the artists who created it and how they went about like building their business model. And it's super fascinating. Actually, it was super inspiring because I want to apply some of that into my own art business, but just haven't gotten to that point in my career yet. Oh man, I'm having a good time sculpting on this thing. This is fun. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
same here. I
Same
feel
here.
like at some point we should just swap for the sake of swapping, but I'm not feeling a hurry yet either. Kind of
I'm really enjoying this. Guys, why didn't we do this earlier? Why is it taking us so long to make this happen?
I think I have this weird, tattooing for sure. But I also have this weird, how can I put it? Like computer dysmorphia, because I have such a low grade computer that I'm like, oh, I know this thing is lagging or. But this is not too bad. I'm really excited for this new one.
I'm excited for your new computer. It sounds like it's going to be a beast.
I know, I'm so hype.
Well, that's precisely what this one was 10 years ago when I bought it, right? This thing was unstoppable. It's actually still keeping up pretty well. At the time, I was doing a lot of video editing and involved rendering that was just taking me way too long on my other machine. And so this kind of cut the time back on that. But I'll tell you what, one of the things I remember from Bryce was just render times in general, now, as you're working on it, you couldn't just work on it and see it change in real time. You'd have this wire mesh, and if you wanted to make any substantial changes to it, you're doing it in a separate interface, and then you come back and then ask it to render. And you could do what they call the plop render, where you're just, you drag and drop your cursor and just choose a tiny rectangle and just render that one little part, because it was such a long process. You could hit render and it's like, well, let's see, I already had lunch. I've got an hour and a half. What can I do? So this is just crazy compared to that. It's a different world entirely. This is science fiction art making.
I also want to say hello to Rowry Home, a good friend of mine through the Raw Pigments. They're saying hello and thanks for putting this together, you guys.
Right on. Well, thanks for being a long-term sponsor and helping us do these things.
Yeah, I had never heard of it until you guys were talking about it. So is it like, I want to check it out. So it's like polymer based tattoo pigment is, yeah, I'll look into it. That sounds pretty cool.
Awesome. We've got a couple other people who are watching saying that zBrush is totally new to them, but now it's definitely piquing their interest.
Yeah, it's intimidating at first. It really is. And when you don't know anybody that can help you out, it can be a lot harder. And so this video will be permanently on file, and you can go back and watch us demonstrating this stuff to each other. And hopefully that'll help a little bit, take some of the scare away and help with some of the familiarizing. My first time using zBrush was just, I didn't really know anybody at the time who was fluent in it. And so And, but that was also back before you could just say, oh, somebody somewhere has made a YouTube video about it, because that wasn't really the case back then. So yeah, it was a little bit trickier.
Yeah, even in 2015, when I was learning all this stuff, there was barely any really good resources on YouTube. I found it really quite difficult to get started. But yeah, and now there's just so much information.
It feels like the world of YouTube instructional videos has really kind of exploded recently.
Oh, it's amazing. Like I learned how to fix my boiler the other day,
Yeah.
just through YouTube,
Yeah, I do it all the time, almost anything these if I don't know how to do it, somebody on YouTube, for whatever reason, really wanted to share that information for free.
Yeah, that's great.
We do have another question in the chat. How accurate or hard is it to get finished ZBrush files into Blender?
It is actually a little bit more of a process than it would be to say take it into Keyshot, because you need to decimate the object, and basically it needs to be a lower polygon count. ZBrush operates with very, very high polygon counts. I'll have sometimes sculptures that are up to like 30 million polygons, whereas Blender is going to want to work with a file that is maybe like 600,000 maximum sort of thing. So it's a little bit more difficult. I've only just kind of started learning Blender, but I've been using a ZBrush to Substance Painter to Blender workflow, and that's been very, very effective. So it's actually a little bit more tricky, but again, it's all very doable and all quite easy to learn. But yeah, it's a good question, actually.
So can you tell us a little bit about Keyshot, like what it does? And, for instance, ZBrush has the ability to do, you can add light sources and position them, and you can change your materials and things like that. But it definitely seems to have some limitations in terms of getting really realistic renders. What is it that Keyshot does that ZBrush cannot do?
So ZBrush has very basic rendering capabilities. It's, ZBrush can do a lot, but what it can't do is render things out photorealistically. Whereas a rendering program such as Keyshot will do all those things to the point of photorealism. So Keyshot is primarily used in it's often used for the advertising industry, for products and whatnot. And a lot of what we'll see in a magazine, say if you open up a magazine and there's a photo of a Rolex, they're saying, buy this Rolex. That's not a photo, that is a Keyshot rendering of a digital sculpture or 3D model. So basically what it does is take a digital photo. So you can take whatever you've made in ZBrush or any other program, take it into Keyshot, set up different materials, like you could make the sculpture glass, for example, you can make it skin, you can make it concrete. You set up a bunch of different light sources, it can be whatever colors you want. It's really is infinite. It's completely endless. And and then you render it out. So rendering it out is basically taking a digital photo, and that's how you get your finished image. Yeah, like I said, ZBrush has quite limited capabilities for that sort of thing.
Yeah, now that sounds a little bit like the kind of rendering that you could do on Bryce, where you could choose your materials, and you could get very deep into it. You want glass, okay? What's your refractive your refractive index? What is your specular halo color? All these kinds of things. You get very, very particular. Yeah,
and that's where it's like rendering is its own game entirely. Like it's. There are a lot of digital artists who they can't model, they can't sculpt, they can't even draw, but they can render like hell. So it gets very, very in depth when you get into the kind of the refractive indexes of things, and that's quite intense.
That's a rabbit hole in and of itself.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I've learned 20% of that program, if that, and I use it to do 80% of everything.
Before we switch on the collab, do you guys want to go around the round and show what you're working on? Guy, we can start with
it's
you again.
probably about time to switch. So yeah, let me go ahead and zoom out a little bit. You can see I've been detailing things out. You can see these vertebrae I kind of
Damn.
started out earlier. So yeah, those are fun. I love those kinds of structures, and so I've just been kind of randomly messing around with it. And then let's see, what else have I done? I've messed around on his back some, but I'm not going to get any more detailed with it. I love this stuff, but I don't want to go too much farther. I think that you need to get into that. I've kind of, extended these fins a little bit, messed with the head, although I'm not sure I love it yet. It's a little bit too, I don't know. It needs to be more vertebral, but yeah, that's, let me bring the whole thing back on the screen. Yeah, that's where we're at with that. I think I'm going to go ahead and save it now and send it on. I think it's time. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it might be time because I'm getting way too into this.
Okay.
Into this
Well, let's
one.
do the other two. I'd love to see what you guys where you're at.
All right, who goes next?
Go ahead.
Okie dokie. All right, so this is what I've done with Guy's biosculpt so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've just kind of gone through and just really gone nuts with detailing the underside of tweaked just the kind of the big spikes a little bit so that they kind of flow nicely. It's with digital programs, it can kind of be a little bit it's easy to make things feel a little bit rigid sometimes, especially in the early stages of a sculpt. But yeah, this is kind of I haven't touched this part of it yet, as you can see, but barely touched the back of there. But yeah,
I would imagine a lot of that's going to go against, the viewer's, side of or field of view.
Yeah,
anyway.
Yeah, quite often I'll do sculptures that are really, really detailed here, and then there's nothing on the back. But it's good practice to do the whole thing. But
yeah, and I've known ZBrush artists that just always get every surface, even if they know that in their final render nobody's going to see certain parts.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing that would happen if this was going to be, let's say, a painting reference, is this would nest inside like a larger sort of body. This head complex would rest inside the larger body, which would be a little bit more organic and would look like it could kind of open and close around this thing. And so the back part of it there would just sort of fuse onto kind of a neck. So it wouldn't necessarily actually be a back part. It would just end up being fused onto to another larger shape.
Well, that works out well. That definitely works out well. Yeah, this is so far. So I guess I better save it. Yeah, do you want to take over, Adrian, and show us where we're at?
Let's see.
Guy thing.
Okay, so I just kind of went ham on this guy and.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
So it went pretty heavy Giger, But yeah, I guess it's hard not to for sure. But I guess they're every time I see a skull coming out of a flat surface, it always reminds me of I think it was Lee. I think it was Lee 2 is the painting where it's a portrait of his ex-wife. And she's got biomet kind of coming up and down these areas. So, I think that image is so just stuck in my mind that, especially, with kind of this being a reintroduction to ZBrush, it's fun to kind of, lean on some familiar rhythms and just use that as a crutch, if you will. So I can feel a little bit more confident and comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm having a good
But you got
time.
that, yeah, the totem pole kind of aspect of things. Yeah, I'm tempted to like start out by turning off symmetry for just a couple minutes and basically just slashing across the thing
Hell yeah,
diagonally,
man.
you know,
Great
and then
idea.
turn symmetry back on a little bit. And, you know, at this point, I'll probably be turning symmetry on and off. Because that's another thing is things look so beautiful, symmetrical, you know, and especially if you're lighting angle, it's not even going to be a symmetrical image, right? Because the lighting won't be. But at some point or another, I feel like the finer surface details need to kind of go off on their own a little bit.
Right. Something cutting across. Oh,
Well,
yeah,
I'm a big
back to
fan of
film.
breaking symmetry, kind of like after establishing the, you know, what the sculpture is going to be. I'm a fan of just like breaking that symmetry and giving it a little bit more lifelike feel. You know, you don't want it to be too computer feeling. You know, if it's completely symmetrical, it just feels like it's done on a computer, which is, I mean, it is, but we don't want it to feel that way. You know?
Yeah, I agree. All right, well then, are we sending these off to each other? I'm sending this thing to Guy, hey?
Yep.
And I'm sending this one on to you, Adrian. I'm
And
just
I've already
uploading it.
sent the dog alien thing your way.
Oh, hell yeah. Cool.
And it's super fun. I can't wait to see what you do with it.
Yeah, just send it via Dropbox again if you would. I think actually,
Yep.
you know what?
I'm already uploading to Dropbox now, so it should be good.
All right. I sometimes have issues with Dropbox, so let's hope I can get it working. So yeah, I guess let me know when you've got it uploaded. Or actually, I'll get an email with a link, right?
I'm not doing Dropbox. I'm gonna try a Google Drive.
Okay. Even better. That thing is so cool looking. It looks kind of like it's made out of that same carbonite that they froze Han Solo in.
Oh, it does. You're right. Let's see. That was Hoko. That was the name of that.
I'm sure that would be like a good classic exercise is to try to duplicate the frozen Han Solo carbonite thing in zBrush.
Would be a lot of fun. Man, guy, you really went nuts with the vertebrae of this tail. It's awesome.
Well, it just started, you know, because I mean, you know how far you can go with something like that, all the little connecting ligaments and stuff like that. And at some point or another, like you'd want to have symmetry on for most of it, but then you get into the really small veins and things like that. There comes that point where it's nice to turn off symmetry a little bit.
Yeah. Man, this is cool. This is real cool. All right, I guess I better get sculpting this bad boy.
I think I sent that to you now, Guy.
Okay, well, I'm keeping an eye on my inbox. Super fun. And there it is. All right. It might take me a minute to download. We'll see. For me to update this app took me like 2 hours download time. Rural internet. So yeah, where does it show the polygon count? There's a way of knowing.
So that it's on the upper right of the screen, right next to the tool palette. It says active points and total points. So that's your polygon count there.
Right. So we've already got over 1 million on this dog alien thing.
Yeah, it's 1.1. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you to everyone who's joining us on YouTube, who has just jumped on.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick, just because I'm already doing the sculpture.
We're going with this. So
Hoko, what
is there a
material are
particular
you using?
material that you prefer to do all your sculpting in, or do you
Sorry,
vary?
sorry. What was that? Sorry.
Is there a particular material you prefer to do all your sculpting in?
I tend to use the basic material, so it's just this one here, or I'll either use that one or the kind of shiny variant of it. If I'm poly painting the actual model itself, which is like giving it color and texture, I'll use this skin shade 4 because it's just white. But yeah, generally I'll use this one. It's just, it looks a bit more appealing than the kind of red wax.
Yeah, I've never really liked the red wax. I find myself often using one of the skin shades just because I find that with too much reflectivity, that shine is sometimes distracting, unless I know that my final render is going to have that kind of a shine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Holy shit, this thing's crazy. Where to even begin? Oh.
Yeah, I don't mind the red material myself.
I don't mind it to start off with, but after a certain point, I'm like, all right, it kind of grates on me a little bit.
I think a lot of it is just because it's nothing at all like whatever. It's not neutral, and it's nothing like at all like whatever I'm planning on taking it to,
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know like some tattooers love to draw in red color pencil, right? And so, I mean, it's even if like the drawing is not for something that's going to be a red design. So, I mean, I get it. It's a just kind of a standardized, not neutral, but sort of generic, strong color. I have problems seeing red in real life. And so like when I tattoo, I tend not to use it unless it's isolated. I'll have like a red element or whatever, but I try to keep it out of my gradients. And because I know I see it darker than other people do, and that kind of thing. So I have a weird relationship with red.
Fellas, are we starting to get closer to a completed render on some of these things, and that way we can pass everything off to Hoko for demonstration on rendering one of or all of them?
Let's see. Yeah, we're at quarter till. So yeah, work another 15-20 minutes on these and then do the renders.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay.
And I know that we could go many more hours than that. But,
yeah, that's why I was saying, I'm like, I know we could probably get ahead pretty easily.
Yeah, well, this quadruped here, it's a very, very ambitious kind of sculpture for such a short amount of time.
True.
But it's come out very cool so far. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of a tough one to nail down real quickly.
Yeah, because it's a rabbit hole, truly.
Yeah.
As soon as you start really getting into it, it just keeps going. Like one of those vertebrae you can spend hours on.
Yeah.
It's, I'm really just at the very beginning of exploring the brushes, but a good analogy for that would be all the years that I spent drawing in Photoshop, just drawing and painting in Photoshop, just using the airbrush, right? Because I don't know, I used to airbrush and it just seemed to make sense. It was natural to me and felt comfortable. But then I start seeing all my colleagues doing things in airbrush, in Procreate or Photoshop, where they're not using the airbrush, but instead they're using brushes with jagged edges and that kind of thing. And I finally started really branching out, and of course, that made all the difference. And make your art look a lot less digital when you're willing to go into those more jagged brushes.
Well, especially the airbrush, it tends to give it that very, very soft kind of digital feel, doesn't it? Whereas like the ones that kind of mimic paintbrushes and everything, they definitely feel a lot more organic. It's I find digital drawing in Photoshop to be very difficult. They're kind of a very difficult exercise in general, though. I'm not too sure why. Never really clicked with it.
Yeah, I find that I usually will try to do most of my initial design work on paper still, just because I have such an intuitive feel for graphite especially, and then I'll bring it into Procreate or Photoshop, where I really like to be able to make use of warp and liquefy and these great tools where you can then take your drawing and say, okay, I kind of like it, but what if this shape were more open? And what if this arc got fixed a little bit? And what if I change the proportion of this versus this? And you can just kind of, bend and warp and transform and do all that stuff. And I love the hybrid of being able to take my analog drawings and then do that with them.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree with you 100% with like combining those mediums. Just because we're doing digital doesn't mean it has to be solely digital, etc. We should use all of the abilities that we have when we're making things like this, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I never turned symmetry off. I'm trying to even remember how to do that, because this is
Go to transform.
Okay, that's along the top. Yep. Symmetry off. Okay.
Yeah, you can just press X to do that, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And, if I hit X again, will it turn it back on?
Yep, that's the one. Does anyone else want to have a bit of a turn with the screen time there?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to take a quick look at what I'm doing here, I think I'm gonna.
While we do this transition, Pete Wild in the chat room has said, have you tried doing light sources? Is it possible?
100% possible, and we'll be going through that actually after we finish these sculptures here. We'll take it into a rendering program and show you around a little bit.
Awesome. And then Godfrey Atlantis also asks, are there any new ZBrush specific artists who you would recommend to check out?
Yeah, and I can never remember their names because they're all Russians or from South America and whatnot. But let me just have a quick look here on my Instagram. I'll see if I can.
Yeah, some of those Russian cats are just really just killing it. Hey.
Oh yeah, man! Like guys like Max Vayan, I think his name is, and they're just incredible. Like, especially on a kind of from an angle of dark artists. That's no one else is doing it like them.
What about that guy? Is that guy Adi Gravinov? Is that dude a Russian guy as well?
I'm
know
not
what I'm talking
too
about?
sure.
He's
No, I'm not
another
too
guy.
sure who that is.
There's so many. There's so many. I think he goes by, it's ADIGRAVONOV or NIV or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not too sure. Hold on. Someone else take the reins. I'm just kind of quickly looking up a. Adrian, do you want to show us your screen?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to see about rendering on these. And I don't know, maybe before we pass them your way for rendering, you could tell us a little bit about materials and that kind of thing, if that's going to help. We can kind of get that up for you.
Yeah, no problem at all.
The pinch tool that I wanted to use. It's still around, right? Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm looking for.
Right now, I'm just using the Blob Brush. And that's really handy because, you know, and I've got symmetry turned off and I'm just kind of randomly blobbing over things.
Actually, that's a great brush, that one. It's kind of like, it kind of gets ignored a lot, but it's such a great brush.
The Blob Brush?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's great for making textures and whatnot. But you kind of do need to use it in conjunction with Dynamesh because it works like the Inflate brush where it distorts the mesh quite a lot.
Yeah, if you bear down on it and it starts to build up, it definitely it gives it warts. But you know, sometimes that's exactly what you want.
I'm using this brush called the pinch brush, and it kind of makes like these like hard peaked edges, but they're not like super hard. They still have like a rounded edge to it. Let me zoom into that so you can see what I'm doing. So you can see that it pulls the like the topology into this, a peak, I guess.
Right, but it still leaves that smoothness, which is nice.
Right.
Rough everything up.
I'm trying to use that smoothness in contrast to the really rough stuff that Hoko did before I got it on the inside. Kind of create a bit of that contrasty feel. I use that pinch edge on this thing as well. So let's see really well.
Yeah, this thing is going to be pretty tattooable by the time it's done.
I reckon so with this mind tree thing.
Yeah, now if COVID hadn't happened and Hoko was able to continue his US tour a couple of years ago, we would have ended up doing this kind of alien bug thing. I think that was the plan. We had a whole
oh man, I was so disappointed about that.
Oh man.
It would have been amazing.
Hopefully
we missed out on a collabo too, didn't we? We were supposed to tattoo on Maserati, I thought.
Yes, that's right. Well, you know what? He's probably still interested.
Yeah, he's super cool. That guy's awesome.
Definitely a dedicated collector. So, okay, what's a shortcut for just quickly changing the light angle on the model if you want to just see how it looks?
You can just press the button that is a BPR. It's up on the top right again, near the tool palette. You can just press that to quickly do a very light render. Other than that, you have to go into the lights palette and actually change the lighting.
Gotcha.
So
okay, I've done that in the past. Where do I find the lights palette again?
So it's up on the top. It's right beside File, actually. and you can just kind of go
Yes.
there, and you can drag that over to the left of the screen and dock it, and really mess around with it there.
There we go. Yeah, I needed some more directional lighting. And yeah, one of the things that always drove me nuts about the ZBrush lighting, I know this because it's not ray tracing, it's like sort of just baked into the material, is that you can't get the lighting directly at the very top. It's like slightly in front, and then you're moving it back, and suddenly it's slightly behind.
It's a bit rough. It's certainly not the greatest.
But it's not meant to be.
Setup.
It's not meant to be, Keyshot. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, well, it does well for what it is.
Right. Yeah.
And I've seen guys like Tofi, a Polish tattooer who uses digital, he uses ZBrush a lot all the time. He's done some really cool stuff with, and it's all just been ZBrush render, and I was blown away when I realized that.
Yeah, I've always been really impressed with what he's done. Just with ZBrush materials, and he's really kind of pushed it as far as I think you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is a really interesting exercise, guys, because it's kind of pushed my sculptures and what I'm doing. It's forcing me to do things that I never really have just accidentally done by myself.
Right. Try some new stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really cool.
I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty nervous that we were getting this all set up because I've been so unfamiliar with things, and this has been a really fun way to just kind of throw me right in the deep end without a pair of floaties.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of anxiety attacks, and now I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah, this is far beyond what I was able to do just one day ago. And it's funny because I've got this project that last winter I built this elaborate clay model, because I still like doing it that way too. But part of it was always meant to be built in ZBrush, and I stalled. I tried it a few different ways and just stalled. So hopefully this will be just enough to unstall that. And I think that that's one of the things that has always pushed me forward with learning new apps, is having some kind of a project that I'm trying to do with that app, rather than just sitting down and saying, okay, I'm going to learn this thing. Because that's sort of hard to do, And so if you end up in a sink or swim situation, it's like, like Hoko was saying, he had a client the next day, and maybe you're not going to be able to actually succeed to the level you want to on that first day, but it's enough to get you, moving.
Yeah, I think there's certainly something to be said for having that sense of urgency. Here's a project, here's something I need to do, and I have a very limited amount of time to do it. I think kind of creativity thrives in those circumstances.
As much as it pains me to agree, I absolutely agree.
Yep. If you don't break a serious sweat every now and then as an artist, that you've made things way too easy for yourself. You should sweat. You should occasionally have to say, oh shit. And if you don't, you're staying too deep in your comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think also from my perspective, sometimes when you tell yourself you actually make the decision to do something, which often comes hand in hand with urgency, that's when things get done.
Yeah,
but making the decision in your mind.
Yeah, and if you make the decision, you take it on, you say, okay, I'm going to do this. And then I think sometimes, even though you don't have to, you could always back down and say, no, maybe not. a lot of us just aren't like that. It's like, okay, at this point now I'm gonna do it, and have to commit yourself to it somehow, kind of like getting a gym membership. Well, what do you guys think? Should we start setting these up for rendering?
Yeah, because I think we could push these around all day.
Oh yeah.
You know?
I'm enjoying it though. I'm enjoying pushing this around.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to. I mean, there's no finish point on this one for me. I'm so deep into it, but I know that we've got audiences from all over the place, including some that it's probably their bedtime.
Yeah, that's fair. I haven't even considered the the audience here. I've just
The
been
audience
enjoying myself.
ramifications.
All right then, guys. Yeah,
Let's see.
we
All right. Huge thanks to the audience for hanging out with everybody today. It's definitely nice to have an excuse to get together and nerd out about art. I'm interested to see what you do with this in Keyshot. This is going to be interesting because it already has like from this angle, like you can already kind of see. Let me kind of tweak it a little bit, but you can kind of already see that this setup and shape for a sleeve almost, you know, like in this area. Could go on an outer arm. Yeah, that'd be cool. All right, so I have some guy teams. All right.
So to set up for rendering, are we gonna just leave them in whatever materials we worked in, or is there anything that we could do that's gonna help prep it for the rendering?
Well, the rendering is going to be like I can just put stock materials on there, like right now. So there's pretty much nothing that we could do there unless we wanted to color these. We could do what's called texturing, and which is where you basically paint the model itself, and then you can take it into zBrush from there with take it into Keyshot with color information.
Right. Now I've done a little bit of that with a few of my Z models. Is basically it's just like now this thing is a plastic a resin kit that you bought and you're painting it, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So yeah, like you can make, that's where the kind of realism aspect comes in, is when you really make it look really nice with the textures and whatnot. But I've got other completely separate programs that I use generally for that. But I did a little bit of poly painting, as it's called, when you texture in ZBrush here. I did a little bit of that earlier on, and it was a lot of fun, actually. Did it pretty quickly too, so maybe we could give that a little go. But yeah, if you guys want to send me those files, the two that you've got, I can bring them into rendering programs and we can have a look.
Okay. I'm having a hard time stopping.
Yeah, so am I.
So we don't have
I'm
to do
sending
that.
you this one, Hoko.
Okay, cool.
All right, and then I'll give that a minute or two to sit, and then I'll send this one. And so the rendering that you're going to do on these, this is going to be in Keyshot.
Yeah, I'll take it into Keyshot and just see what we can get out of it. Yeah, rendering is a kind of a strange exercise. Sometimes you can have something really, really nice instantaneously. Other times I'll spend hours trying to find the right angles or whatever for what we're doing. So it'll be quite interesting to see.
Yeah, I always found that to be the case in Bryce also, because when you're trying to make something that the intention is for it to be tattooable, you know, it's not just enough for it to look cool. You have to be able to really understand the shapes, and you know, at least enough to be able to, you know, translate it onto skin. So there's a certain clarity. You want the lighting and the volume and all that stuff to be fairly unambiguous.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely needs to be readable, and that's kind of a bit of a problem that I had when I first started out doing digital sculpture for tattoos. Was I was making things that maybe they just contained a bit too much information. A lot of it didn't translate too well to the skin. I was also tattooing it like a realism tattoo artist as well, where you just copy every single piece of information that's on your reference, and so I was putting a lot in that didn't need to be there. It's kind of
I did
important
something similar with. I remember I think the first time that I used ZBrush for a tattoo, I did it at a convention. Like a friend of ours, this guy Rod Graybill, he's a tattoo artist in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I did a piece on his upper thigh, and I used a ZBrush tool that I had built, and I had just lit it using the basic material with the light moved around, and yeah, it like worked and didn't work. It was obviously like a different set of lighting circumstance than what I would have done normally without it. However, it did give me a better understanding as to why the decisions that I was making on my own, that I liked the way that they looked. It gave me some more information about why they were working that in that certain way. So, all right, Hoko, you should have that piece.
Yeah, I'm just downloading it now, so
Oh,
it should
okay,
be
cool.
coming through. Let's have a look here.
Yeah, Rod Graybill is actually one of the regular participants in our reinventing drawing groups.
He's such a good dude. He's a real good dude. I have an ongoing piece on his leg, on that same leg, actually. But yeah, it's been a while since we've been able to link up. I'm also tattooing on his Mrs. Natalie.
Okay, what do you reckon? Should I take these guys into Keyshot and see what I can come up with?
Yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll send this one too.
Okay.
I think, yeah. As much as I hate to do it, I'm gonna I brought a
Man,
little
that
bit
thing
more
looks
focus.
hectic. I'm so into it.
I brought a little bit more focus to the faces. You know, some kind of standing veiny textures that I didn't put elsewhere. Hopefully will cause them to stand out a little bit because there's a lot of detail and cool stuff happening. And all right, I'll save it.
Yeah, we definitely got to do this again. This is fun. But now
this
we
has
can
been really
we can
enjoyable.
bring like preconceived and pre-built models to the game too, to where we just kind of jump in.
There's so many possibilities here. It's crazy. Just the fact that you know, we've got this sort of proof of concept that we can easily pass these things around and collaborate.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, this has been awesome, guys. Really enjoyable. Let me know when that's when you've sent that through, Guy.
Yep, I'm still waiting for it to upload on my slow ass connection. Yeah, it might be a minute. Yeah, here in the middle of the nowhere, the internet choices are not very impressive. We're still waiting for Elon Musk to bring us internet out here because it's not much better than horse and buggy. But yeah, it's uploading. It'll get there. Yeah, what a cool thing. So here's a question for you. That slab, that monolithic slab that you kind of stuck this onto. What if I wanted to break some holes all the way through that? How do you do that?
Okay, so that's actually a little bit more difficult. So you can basically take another shape, such as like a square or a cylinder, and place it through the monolith and use that to like cut out that shape.
Basically a Boolean.
Yeah, you can do that via Boolean, but that doesn't really work too well when the mesh gets a little bit of like a higher mesh, like a higher poly count. So what we can do is use Dynamesh subtract and subtract it using Dynamesh. So that's probably the best way to do that. If we were to do it with that sculpture in its current state.
Hey, Hoko, you haven't started rendering that Mindtree file that I sent you, have you?
No, I haven't yet.
Okay, I might resend it to you because I'm kind of pushing and pulling on it still.
Go for it, bro. Go for it. You know what? I might grab the screen then in that case, and
yeah, for sure.
and bring the dog alien into the into Keyshot.
Dog.
Okay, here we
Yeah.
have the strange quadruped alien.
Okay, so
Spiky boy.
here's another question.
Yep.
How hard would it be to pose those legs in a way that would feel natural? Turn off Symmetry. Would you just use
Transpose, hey?
Yeah, I can use transpose. However, the mesh is really quite high, and again, you want low resolution to make a big change like that. I can actually do it though. I can do it now if you want, real quick. It might be a little bit of a mess around, but I was thinking to do it anyway. I think it's a good exercise. So to do that, I'm going to have to rebuild the mesh so that we get subdivision levels. I'll just see how this goes.
Now, when you rebuild the mesh like that, are you going to lose some of the fine detail that you've put in there?
I'm going to lose all of the fine detail, but what I can do is, see, I've rebuilt it. So this is what we had, and now this is what we've ended up with. So I can increase the subdivision levels to a workable state. So we've got 1.8 million here. And then what I can do is project the detail from the previous Dynamesh mesh and project that onto our newly created zRemeshed subtool.
Okay, so you've moved those legs. Will it be able to transpose the detail onto the reshaped legs?
So the detail's on there now. So this is the original. This is the original tool, and this is the second one with subdivision levels. So I can go back and forth between them.
Okay.
So now what I can do, just moved my graphics tablet. Hold on. Let's have a look here.
Are you familiar with Wayne Barlow?
Wayne Barlow.
Yeah, he's an
What a
illustrator.
wonderful artist.
A lot of what he's doing right now is he's created this whole sort of hell ecology with all these sort of underworld creatures. But many years ago, he created an alien planet and wrote this book about, I think it was called Expedition, where these explorers go and check out this planet. And so none of the creatures on this planet developed eyes. They just went on a completely different sensory kind of developmental path. And it's so neat, you know, but this creature reminds me a little bit of a Wayne Barlow alien.
That sounds like something I'd be super into.
You would probably just love his art, period.
Yeah.
The den of the underworld, or I think they'd be right up your alley. I'll make sure to tag you on one of his posts.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, Wayne's work's been a big influence on my work since I was a kid. You know, I think the first thing that I discovered of his was I think that he's got a portfolio out called The Inferno.
Yeah.
And it's basically this guy who is given a tour through hell with some demon, and he's documenting it via these paintings. Kind of like a Dante's Inferno kind of vibe, but from the perspective of this weird artist.
Yeah, that's right up my alley. I think I need to see this.
Okay, so you've been able to kind of bend and twist this. Now, at the point where it's actually bending, does it leave weird distortion marks that you have to then go in and fix up close, or?
Yeah, it's basically anything like this is going to completely screw up your anatomy. So
Yeah.
it's the fact that this is so textured and it's got all these kind of bony protrusions has worked in our favor here, because it's actually hiding some of the anomalies, but it's actually worked out pretty well so far. So let me have a quick look at this other side here.
Yeah, I gotta say that the non-symmetrical pose really looks a lot better, I think.
Yeah, you don't want to, like, especially something like this, you definitely do not want just a rigid pose like what we had. But that's, I mean, that's perfect for sculpting it, but for what we want for, yeah, see if I do that, it's just gonna
All right. Yeah.
So what I would need to do here would be, if I were to take this further and keep it correct, I would have to reshape the deltoid here. And
Yeah, but that's a small
section.
as a
Yeah.
you know, to be able to make that kind of natural pose. Yeah, because that just, it totally brings it to life, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And,
Like a strange piece of furniture, but now it looks like a creature.
what if we do this? Do
Looks
something
so crazy now.
Ooh.
Gonna pose the head a little bit.
Yeah, just want to see if we can just even just a slight angle on a head makes such a huge difference.
Even just seeing it move, it's like a creature animated.
What we do need is to move this, I think.
The tail, yeah, the tail is
Yeah.
right up the center, and that wouldn't be the case.
What I'll do here is this alpha. So, actually, see how
Okay,
this works.
Now, when there's that gradient, it's showing a gradient within that selection box.
So what that is doing is it's creating a mask. So I'm masking out areas that I want to not be affected by the move, and with the gradient, it makes the mask go over a nice gradient, so that we can. So this is, if I didn't use it, that would be a hard line right there, and we definitely
Right.
don't want that.
So as the gradient fades out, it affects those parts of the shape less and less.
Yeah. So I can then go like this, and it's kind of go like so. So it's not straight up and down, you know. And we can take that as far as we want. Let's also.
That thing is running now. That's impressive looking creature.
Totally brought to life. You know, just these position changes just really brought it to life.
It's strange how just the smallest thing will just completely change it.
Well, it's kind of like animators, once they figured out that when a figure is standing still, they're not actually standing still. There's some shifting of the weight from one leg to the other, and you know, the shoulders will shift a little bit, and then the head might move just a tiny bit. And if you don't do that, it looks like a statue.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, I guess maybe we take this into Keyshot now and have a look at it.
Let's see what we can do.
So, hold on a second. There we go.
Now, one thing I really loved about Bryce was, if you wanted to create a backdrop of a scene, you know, a mountainscape or whatever, it was really optimized for that. You could knock out a mountain backdrop in minutes.
Yeah, it's kind of a harder thing to do as well, like something like a mountain backdrop. What sort of this is something that would definitely benefit a lot from having like a full texture. Like at the moment, it's gonna not look amazing, I don't think, just simply because we don't have that. We haven't textured the model, but you know, kind of pressed for time to a certain extent.
Normally, texturing the model is something you do by applying filters and things like that, right?
No. So what we can do is I'll show you what texturing would be. Normally we do this before we pose it, but we just did. So what we'll do here is go like this. Okay, so what sort of color should we make this guy?
That
What do you
looks
guys
good.
reckon?
Some kind of blue-greenish.
Yeah. So if I fill that object, and then we move up in value a little bit to look at. So it would actually go over and basically like airbrush it and really get in there and color the whole thing. So that's what texturing is. Sorry, I've completely lost control of my thing here. There we go. Yeah, so we go through and do basically give it color, and then I don't know, maybe you could have like a little bit of it's a bit too much. A little bit of a reddish underside. And so this is what texturing is. So you can like realistically, we can take whatever model we make, and if it's for tattooing or whatever, but you can take it as far as we want. When I'm tattooing things, I generally don't take it this far. I generally don't actually texture the model. I'll usually render it out with like a flat gray shader because I want to use it as reference rather than copying it 100%. But
Right, you're almost always doing black and gray.
Yeah. So it's very, very rare that I'm not doing black and gray, basically. But I'll just do this really quick. Just so
what I
we can
remember from Bryce is you could select all these different stone textures, and you could create textures from your own. Bring in samples and combine them. Let's say you got a photo of some rock and a photo of chain link fence or whatever, and you can create these texturing tools from that. And so then you could take the surface of your object and just map it out with this whole texture.
Well, yeah, we can actually do that in basically all the programs that we have now, like especially Keyshot. If we go over here, let's have a look here. Let's stone. Here's a simple kind of granite texture. It's not a very good one though.
We can't see your Keyshot.
Oh crap! Sorry, I didn't realize that. Oh yeah, hold on. Sorry, how do I change that? Okay, so
is it just
hold on. Yeah. Okay. Now, okay, here we go. Sorry, I didn't realize that you guys couldn't see Keyshot. So yeah, we can put all sorts of different things on this. So here's a texture that I made myself. I made a bunch here, which again they kind of each model will require its own textures basically, because I made this kind of bronze patina look for a different sculpture that I made, and it was perfect for that, but it doesn't work so well for this. It kind of works a bit better.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah, it's great for like shadow information. But I'll tell you what, we'll bring this in. Can you see the ZBrush right now?
Yep.
All right, cool. Let's bring this in, and with my very, very light texturing, actually, that's not worked. So.
And that looks so good already. It's just crazy how good that looks compared to zBrush.
Oh, the difference is night and day, isn't it? Why is it so dark? It shouldn't be that dark. Anyway, let's have a look here. It's strange that it's kind of come out that dark. But let me change the environment here. There we go.
You're just moving the light source around.
I'm just moving the camera around at the moment, but we can move the light source around as much as we want. So this is just like a simple environment light source here. So we can just change that up and get something quite cool, you know. Or we can just chuck in a completely different environment altogether, such as this random stairwell.
Yeah.
What do we got here? Actually, I think
That one's cool.
yeah, it works. That works quite well. Boost the shadows a little bit.
Yeah, there you go. Interesting.
Yeah, that looks kind of quite nice for a very simple kind of rendering setup and very simple texturing. It'd be awesome to take this this subtool here, this creature, and finish it. I think it'll be really cool at the end of it.
It would also make for a really strong reference for something like a painting or.
Yeah, it'd work really, really well. Let me have a look at it real quick. Sorry, I'm just playing around with it now. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, guys.
No, it's cool. It's fun to watch.
Okay. Change there we go. I like that.
Wow.
All right. So what variables are you tweaking right there?
This is a little bit more complex. So I'm in what's called a material graph, and this is how you make your own materials in Keyshot. So I'm literally I've just added a color adjust layer into it, and I'm just tweaking the hue and the saturation, etc. Kind of the value. Yeah, kind of. I like that.
But when you make a color adjust layer like that, that's actually a separate layer. You can turn it on and off and see the original untouched version.
Yeah, I can just go like oh no, sorry. I can go like so.
Okay.
There we go. So that's the original version.
Yeah.
But I think I'm enjoying this more. Yeah, I mean, if we had some better lighting, we can kind of set this up quite nicely, I think. Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, when we were talking a little bit about zBrush, when I was still making the encyclopedia, you sent me a few different renders that were. I was under the impression you were taking these renders and then carefully editing them together to create the clearest possible, right? Now that was that before you started using Keyshot?
Wonder what it was that I sent you. Was that like a kind of Geiger-esque image?
I'm pretty sure it was, yeah. And
yeah.
You showed me some different renders side by side, and like some of them were very flat, some of them were for edge lighting and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So that'll be different render passes that I've used. So so sometimes I'll render out something like this, and then maybe I will render out a pass like this, and then it just with a black kind of shader, so that with very high specularity, so that then I can take this image and overlay it onto the textured image, and then use layer mode in Photoshop called Screen to just keep the specularity. So I can kind of control how much highlights there are, or that sort of thing. Sometimes I'll do like an occlusion pass, which is just for like basic shadows, just to boost shadows and add contrast, which would be something like along the lines of this. And then I can just take this shadow information and then overlay it as well. So when you're rendering, it's kind of, yeah, you just kind of, there'll be like a bunch of render passes that you'll use to overlay on top of each other. But now I've kind of got it down to a point where I can just do it with one image often. But yeah.
Well, I mean, if you've got enough control over something like Keyshot, you should be able to just keep tweaking it until you can get all of those same effects that you would normally need, all those separate render passes.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, but yeah, you do end up, yeah, with Keyshot especially, you do often have to render out a whole bunch of different things. Like if we go to the render option here, we have all of these passes here, which is like diffuse lighting, global illumination, caustics, you know, all the rest of it. Normally, I'll only render out a clown, a depth, and an ambient occlusion pass, as well as what I'm making, and I will only generally use the depth and the ambient occlusion. So,
okay.
But yeah. Should we bring in another one of these models and have a look at it?
Let's do it. Let's do it. You should have gotten the skull monolith by now, and you also have
yeah.
Yeah,
Adrian.
and I resent the other one. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll download this both.
Yeah, the first one that I sent. I just I wanted to move some of the like the big Biomech hooks and a bit more of an S curve.
Let's see if that's downloaded. I think it's come through. Oh yeah, this is awesome. Man, that thing is hectic.
Yeah, great.
All right, I'll send that through to Keyshot now, but while I'm doing that, I'll download the other one.
Wow, nuts.
Yeah, no, if somebody wanted this as a back piece, I would probably still feel inclined to bring in some foreground shapes that were kind of branching in front of it, maybe even bring in some asymmetry there.
Yeah.
Already the shadows make it so much more solid.
Let's have a look here. It's going to work well for this.
Those materials that you're dragging in from, those are all materials you've created yourself that do you find work well for the kind of look that you're going after?
Yeah. These are the ones that are kind of like I made. I was just mucking around, like learning how to make them myself, and this is kind of mostly what I ended up with. But let's have a look. Yeah. I'll tell you what. Let's set up some lights for this.
Okay. But you can imagine how a few holes going all the way through this thing, mostly symmetrical with a couple like random asymmetrical ones. Like
that would be awesome. Okay, let's have a look here.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So crazy.
Yeah. So this would be.
Oh yeah, I love the directional lighting. It's slightly off to the side like that.
Yeah, man. So if we add a second light source and kind of maybe just keep it very harsh and off to the edge here.
Yep, just to fill it, bring some of those details back out.
And can we change the colors of one of those lights?
Absolutely. What do you want? What color do you want?
Let's try purple
For the rim light or for the main light?
for the rim light.
Cool. Let's have a look here.
Yeah, maybe even like a dull purple.
Oh, that's a bit intense.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That works. Hey, that's very tattooable. And that did not take us long to make at all. That was despite passing everything around, that didn't take very long at all.
Impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm learning a lot today.
Well, one thing I'm learning is I definitely need Keyshot.
I'm right there too.
Yeah, it's such a great program, the Keyshot. But like if you don't want to splash out, you can obviously use Blender. Blender is a little bit less user friendly, but it does the same thing. Yeah, that's cool. That works really well. Oh yeah. You know what? I'm going to add that to my render queue for later.
Hoko, I have a friend of mine that is requesting to ask about cavity maps.
Cavity maps
Yeah.
in ZBrush itself, or?
Yeah, I guess in ZBrush itself, or I'll get him to message about what the question is.
Yeah. I'm not really I don't really use like cavity maps so much. I'll generally bake out normals and whatnot if I'm going to be taking these models into a program like Substance Painter to then take into Blender. But cavity maps is not really something that ends up in my general workflow, especially if we're like making something like this.
Okay.
Let's have a look at the big bio.
Mind
spike,
thing. Yeah, let's check that out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Let me just have a look, make sure it's all downloaded. Here we go. All right. Here we have them. Now, how should what sort of material should we put on this guy?
Okay, so how hard would it be to make the material change with the different layers?
Very, very hard at the moment. I mean, unless we went into ZBrush and painted it, it would be a little bit harder.
Yeah, all right. Well, we won't worry about that right now. But I always try to imagine these things being something that was like part plant, part flesh,
Yeah, absolutely.
Somewhere in between, and then the different stages of the heads, depending on how fancy I got with them. It's like, then you get to a point where, one layer is part rock and part plant, and you get in the next layer, it's part plant and part flesh. The next layer is part flesh and part machine. Next layer is part machine and part, higher dimensional energy formation kind of thing. But none of them are all of one material, right? They're bridging between two different material states, if that makes sense. Yep. Evolution states.
Well, I can definitely do that. I wouldn't be able to do that using
No.
ZBrush by itself. I'd be able to take it into Substance Painter and actually create exactly how you're describing that, which would be a lot of fun. I might do that later. But
so you take one object like this and paint different parts of it into different substances.
Well, yeah. So Substance Painter is a different. It's a program that's used just for making it basic. It's basically for painting 3D objects, and you can literally paint a material as well as the colors and all the rest of it at the same time. So if I wanted to paint, like, say for example, this part here, they're kind of like organic, like earthy, kind of textures. I could select a material that was of those parameters and whatever colors I wanted and paint it there, and then paint this part just straight fleshy, gnarliness, sinewy, and then paint this whatever
Could you go
and
so far as to paint like the topmost head with a translucent material, and it would retain all the properties of that translucent material, even though it's sort of connected to these other parts that are other materials? Or how far
yeah,
can you?
I should be able to do that. I can make this translucent in this program here, but it wouldn't be. I don't think it would have the effect that we'd want. Like, I'll give it a quick go though. Let's have a look at some clear. Yeah, that's gonna gonna end up being a lot of information. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Now, what
Yeah.
happens if, usually if I were doing something like that back in the Bryce days, I would then have to carefully place my light sources inside that clear material, and then
Yep.
it would mess with the diffusion. Because if it's too clear, light just passes right out of it, so then you have to get the diffusion right so that it'll, brighten it up before the light exits the shape. So I'm sure you've got way more parameters now you can mess with than you could back.
Yeah, well, what you've described there is very doable within this program, but it might end up being a little bit more than we can do on stream here today. But
So could you take this object, duplicate it, turn one of them into this clear material, turn one of them into some kind of opaque, let's say, mix of flesh and plant, etc., stick them on top of each other and erase out parts of the opaque shape and just reveal the translucent parts?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of ways we could do that. Like, we could literally do it and this method what we have right here, which is we just render out different passes. Like, I could render out this pass here with it kind of being, obviously we'll work on it more so that it's kind of what you're after, but we could render out this pass here that we have now. Then we could go through and render out like a kind of more like skin pass here, maybe lower the roughness a little bit, and then do something kind of, I don't know, like earthy as well, and then you could take them into Photoshop and just
right
use masks to kind of, or like just paint in what you wanted from each one.
Yeah.
That would work really well. Or we could take it into like a different program and basically make an entire setup for it where it has all of those materials baked into it, and that would work really well.
The temptation to do that is strong. It's like, yeah, I want to actually make the thing, but I often found that making things in Bryce with whatever limitations I ran into, I'd just be happy to have enough assets to be able to create the finished image in Photoshop, and so unless you're actually taking this thing and then animating it, you don't really need to make it out of all the materials. You can just do the appropriate renders and combine them in Photoshop.
Yeah, I mean, it does depend on just how far you want to take things. Like, for example, I can show you some other things that I've made where I've made it completely, I've put all of that stuff into it. Like, for example, this is something where I've taken it into Substance Painter and I've textured the entire model itself, so it's all baked into it. It's got all the material information directly into the colors. Let's have a look when this finally loads.
These are large files.
It shouldn't be that large actually, but so this is something that I've made, and you can see it's kind of got like liquidy on these horns here. It's got like a gold leaf texture, like ornamental patterns on the face itself. It's kind of got liquid on the lips, and again, that's all baked into just one texture set.
And you did this in Substance Painter, you said?
So yeah, I used zBrush and then took it into Substance Painter and textured it in Substance Painter.
And did you do the render in Substance Painter, or did you then bring it back to Keyshot after?
Yeah, I brought it back to Keyshot. I also brought it into Blender as well, and got renders from both programs because they kind of have their pros and cons between them both. But ultimately, I preferred the renders from Keyshot. And yeah, this was like, yeah.
Any chance you could zoom a little closer?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I think I've got depth on it. Yeah, you can see here.
Look at that jade texture. Hey.
Yeah, that's a material that's very believable.
Absolutely.
Of course, part of it is that like just the random rubbings of that gold leafy stuff and things like that. That's, you know, a human has to make those decisions and put it on there with that human randomness. There's no computer algorithm that would do it in such a way that wouldn't feel too perfect, you know.
Yeah, that's again, that comes back to like symmetry as well. You know, you
Yeah.
don't want it to feel too perfect, but in regards to that kind of like gold leaf stuff, I actually went through and erased all these little bits using like a brush set to kind of like a spatter. So it kind of looked like it had worn off, you know, it wasn't like new. But yeah, I'll show you another example of like kind of how far you can take these. Actually, this was quite fun, fun tattoo that I did recently, and this was the reference that I used, that I made for it. So
Oh, okay, yeah, I remember the piece, but I didn't see the reference.
yeah, so this was the reference that I made, and I had a lot of fun with these rats.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty rough, but I had so much fun with them, and with making this face. And again, I textured it all in Substance Painter, sculpted in zBrush, and then rendered here in Keyshot. Yeah, a lot of fun. But yeah,
Awesome. That was awesome, guys.
yeah, that's really
Yeah,
cool.
incredible. I wouldn't even know where to start, but I feel like right now, if I sat down and started working on the missing piece of the big composition I built the clay model for, and I need to make a light form now. I feel like now I could do it. And yeah, I look forward to sharing that with you guys. I'm gonna try to paint that over this winter.
Yeah, this has definitely inspired me to pick ZBrush back up. This is one of the many things that's inspired me to pick ZBrush back up and spend some more time really dedicating myself to it. So yeah, thanks Guy for inviting me, and thanks Hako for all the cool things that you shared. Super inspired right now.
Incredible. And yeah, as long as you guys are still dealing with shutdowns and that kind of thing, I'll let you know any other Australian time zone events that we have going on this next few weeks. And I don't know what they'll consist of, but you know, might be nice to have a paint night or something like that too.
Love it. Yeah.
That would be awesome. Oh yeah, thank you so much to you both for having me, man. It's been awesome. And yeah, and thank you so much, Guy, for just everything you've done for the tattoo industry, man. Like, I can honestly say that my career just wouldn't be where it is without the help that I've had from you. So thank you very, very much, man.
Right on. Well, hearing somebody as badass as you say that is a gigantic compliment. I appreciate that.
Likewise, man. Thank you very much.
Thanks to everyone who tuned in tonight. And if you don't already have the free Reinventing the Tattoo app, check it out. If you're curious at all about subscribing to Reinventing the Tattoo and getting all the paid content in there, we got a $50 off coupon right now. Go to reinventingthetattoo.com/shutdown, and you'll find a landing page there with the coupon. And if you join on as a paid subscriber, I hope to see you on Monday nights. We jam every Monday night and do we've got one more anatomy session. We're gonna do some still lifes in September and all kinds of things that translate back into making better tattoos. Well, it's my bedtime. I'm gonna hit it. You guys have a great night, and everyone who tuned in, thank you. Lauren, thanks for helping host this. And
Definitely.
catching you all soon.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks,
Have a
Lauren.
good night. Thanks, Lauren.
See you later, guys.